Alright, what is good YouTube? It's Ash here. Today we're going to be reacting to the failures of Deku's Vigilante arc from Asaratha. Yeah. We've reacted to this guy before. He's pretty cool with comments on my video. So you already know I'm going to add him again so that he comments again. Hopefully he will. But enough shilling, enough simping. Let's just get right into the video that you may or may not kind of agree with. Alright, let's get it.
Academia finishes up its...
By the way, I hope y'all enjoy. Quality check. Yeah, we good. Alright, let's go.
As My Hero Academia finishes up its 6th and probably most explosive season yet, I'm not really satisfied. Don't get me wrong.
Damn, for real?
Adaptation issues aside, the war was amazing material, but the arc that comes after, Villain Hunt or Deku Solo or the Vigilante arc, which it isn't by the way, he's licensed or whatever you want to call it, is probably the most lacking of any MHA arc thus far. Now, of course, there is stuff like Provisional License Exam or Joint Training, but MHA arc thus far. Now, of course, there is stuff...
Whoa, hold on. Yeah, I'm just looking at the cool Sakuga, you know. Very cool, Bones.
Provisional License Exam or Joint Training, but at worst, those are just boring with decent character moments. Villain Hunt has the exact opposite problem. While PLE and Joint Training
Wait, what?
Villain Hunt has the exact, but at worst, those are just boring with decent character moments.
So it's cool with bad character moments, okay?
Villain Hunt has the exact opposite problem. While PLE and Joint Training prioritize laying the foundation of future plot points and character arcs with not much else going on, Villain Hunt focuses
dinner, by the way, if y'all know. Gotta multitask, you know what's up.
This is on having bombastic and raw moments with scenes that undermine everything that came before. This arc signals the first massive misstep from
Yeah, I agree with the Deku versus Muscular thing, but I'm curious to see everything else.
My Hero Academia and starts the decline that some people might come to see in the inevitable Season 7. This shift in focus from building up character moments and the organic tissue that connected the previous 5.5 seasons of MHA just suddenly vanished here, as the story worked overtime to disregard what made it so special before and opt for characters doing cool stuff.
I actually switched from Chrome to Opera GX a while ago just because I was so tired of Chrome being the absurd resource hog that
it has
a lot of it centers around our protagonist, Izuku Midoriya, but it definitely isn't just him. Honestly, it extends and infects nearly every single character present in this arc, minus Ochako, the character that nobody will give any credit to while gassing up the worst of the arc. Talking about an entire arc like this is quite difficult. Unlike in my Paranormal Liberation War arc video, where my criticisms were much more straightforward, my issues with Villain Hunt are numerous and include many characters and plotlines. This will be broken up into pseudo-sections. I won't break the flow of the video to switch to talking about them, they will more so act as timestamps, so you can hear my complaints about particular things. In this video, we'll be discussing 1. The potential, 2. The consequences, 3. The Endeavor and Hawks issues, 4. The disinterest of One for All, 5.
I'm very curious about that, Endeavor and Hawks.
5. The bastardization of Izuku Midoriya, 6. The apology, and 7. The worst chapter. To properly understand just how disappointing Villain Hunt was for me, I have to talk about what led up to it. Very similar to what I did in my PLW video. Before the war arc, MHA had pretty much gone since the Joint Training arc without very much explicit focus on Midoriya's character, and people wanted to see him in the spotlight again. Everything in Act 2 was building up to this massive climax that was PLW. It's when we hit the big moments for Endeavor's Atonement arc, the Hawks and Twice plotline, the grand villainous entrance of Tomura Shigaraki, the biggest moment in Bakugo's arc so far, and the spotlight finally shines on our protagonist again. PLW was a massive deal for so many reasons. It injected serious stakes into the series that people felt were lacking, seemingly killing characters or severely injuring others, while bringing about the downfall of Hero Society that people had been waiting for like, ever. Put a lot of stock into our primary antagonist, Shigaraki, building up others like Dabi. For the first time, it actually felt like the heroes were on the back foot. Readers were incredibly excited to see the effects of Gigantomachia's rampage on society, how Bakugo would act moving forward, how our class was holding up after witnessing literal war as children, and the state of pretty much everything relating to Midoriya for the future. Now, wouldn't it be crazy if most, if not all of these, failed to live up to people's expectations? No.
Especially the classmate part, because yeah, you know, that had literally no repercussions whatsoever or mention.
The class was holding up after witnessing literal war as children, and the state of pretty much everything relating to Midoriya for the future. Now, wouldn't it be crazy if most, if not all of these, failed to live up to people's expectations? Now, when I talk about consequences here, I'm talking about multiple types. I'm going to be discussing not only the physical ramifications of PLW and Villain Hunt, but also the emotional ones, because I feel emotional consequences have always been a huge deal in My Hero Academia, and the Villain Hunt arc fails in both of these categories. Do you remember early on in Season 6 when we were watching Hawks get his back scorched off by Dabi, and Dark Shadow even commented that his back is literally gone? This amounted to pretty much nothing.
Yep.
His wings are regrowing, and sure, it's taking a bit longer than it used to for them to grow, but other than that, and this cool looking face scar, Hawks made it out of that battle more or less unscathed. Pretty much immediately after, Shigaraki does an insanely large decay wave that kills pretty much nobody we know.
Oh,
besides
nobody we know.
Native. Thankfully, however, Shigaraki isn't proven to be entirely incompetent, as he quickly dispatches of Gran Torino. Wait, never mind. He's fine. Oh,
Yep.
cool.
I hated that. He should have died. I still stand by this. Everybody that I've talked to disagrees, but he definitely should have died.
Despite being thrown out whole by somebody nearly as strong as Prime All Might, Gran Torino gets off scot-free. This then segues into a big moment for Midoriya where he decides to throw caution to the wind and destroy his arms to defeat Shigaraki, something people had been waiting for a long time, and never mind, his arms are fine, and magic gauntlets came in off-screen to save him. Oh man, Bakugo just...
Yeah, I hated the off-screen thing too. Which, actually, it could be explained by the Two Heroes movie. Yeah, okay, but like, is it canon or not? Like, come on, Bones.
took the rivet spikes from Midoriya. I wonder if this will affect... No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all, actually. And we'll get to the apology later. When you don't fully dedicate to actually injuring your characters, even though you had extreme setup for doing it, like literally giving Gran Torino a dramatic flashback to thinking about his life choices, not only do you betray the viewer's investment, risking making them...
Bro, Gran Torino should have died, bro. That would have been so fire. Okay, this sounds crazy out of context, but like, you know what I mean, bro. That is probably my biggest gripe with the war arc. Like, unironically.
Feel a bit silly for actually thinking you would do something, but you lessen the stakes of the series more or less forever. Every time somebody has the feeling of wanting to get invested in the physical or personal stakes of these characters, they'll think back to times where nothing bad actually happened to them, and it will sour your future supposedly high-stakes moments. I'm going off script here because I know people are going to bring up Mirko, and honestly, genuinely, seriously, who the fuck cares? Like, actually, who cares?
Yo.
Not only did some of these people break themselves, literal children and essentially child soldiers witnessed some of the most traumatic incidents of their lives. Midoriya is at one of his lowest points in terms of valuing himself. Some of these kids stumbled upon their teacher's corpse, with Momo in particular losing both of her teachers in one day. Tokoyami found out his mentor straight up killed a man, and for some reason Villain Hunt never takes the time to address any of it. We'll get to
Yeah, okay, yeah, he's kind of spitting. He's kind of spitting, I'm not gonna lie.
Midoriya later, but all of the kids who stumbled upon their teacher's body never had a single episode, never had a single chapter, panel, scene where they talk about it. They never even have a single speech bubble. We never get to hear about how that event might have impacted Mina, or Kirishima, or Sato, should someone care about him. We never get to hear about Momo's struggles with Midnight or Majestic's deaths. We never get to see Tokoyami reflecting on Hawks killing twice. What is annoying about this is that MHA used to be exceptional at making these characters feel human, making them react to the world around them. We had the class disagreements in Kamino, and it made them feel like their own individual people, and seeing how much it meant to people like Ida or Tsuyu. We got to know their own personal struggles in the final exam arc, as someone like Momo struggled with her insecurities. We set aside time to see how Bakugo was affected by All Might's downfall. Kirishima got his very own arc out of nowhere in the overhaul arc, and his feelings of inadequacy. Ochako got to reflect on having Night Eye die in her arms and her inability to help Midoriya. All of this care and nuance the students once had went out the window in Villain Hunt, as they all become a hive mind of positivity to go out and save Midoriya. The story that once had an entire arc of the kids holding a concert because people were feeling down has now completely disregarded the massive impact that such a traumatic experience would have on these kids. The story that used this arc to show that sometimes physically saving people isn't enough to get rid of their trauma, now just decided to ignore the side cast that it created, and a desire to rush to the finish line as fast as possible.
Oh yeah, that was a great point. With Eri, like, she's still going through like the physical and mental therapy, and like, none of the kids have like any of that whatsoever. I mean, sure. I mean, I'm not gonna debate which one is worse because that's kind of weird, but like, now
just decided to ignore the side cast that it created, and a desire to rush to the finish line as fast as possible. MHA Act 3 completely gave up on Class 1A, and unfortunately, that isn't all. This is a section that unfortunately pains me greatly to write, as these two were some of my favorite characters pre-Act 3. PLW had some of the biggest shakeups for these two characters, something that was more or less thrown away in Villain Hunt. Endeavor, on his path to atonement, finally had it all blow up in his face, as the biggest regret he has in life shows its head to punish him for his actions.
If a scammer gets on your system, they're gonna live on there.
I don't care.
They'll go through things like your phone.
Or dies. The biggest regret he has in life shows its head to punish him for his actions.
Wait, I'm curious about that video. Hold on. Where was that? Damn. I'm trying to find out. Hold on.
To properly understand just how disappointing Villain Hunt was for me, I have to talk about what led up.
Whoa!
Thrown away in Villain Hunt.
Yeah, what the heck?
Endeavor, on his path to atonement, finally had it all blow up in his face, as the biggest regret he has in life shows its head to punish him for his actions. because the past never dies. We saw the conclusion to Hawks manipulating people who considered him a friend, as the situation he creates ultimately thrusts him into a position to take somebody's life. The ultimate symbol of Hawks' morally grey actions. The reaction to Endeavor is initially promising. We get to see the heavy toll it takes on him, some great introspection on his atonement, and the civilians begin to distrust him due to this terrible news. It, however, never expands beyond this. Now, of course, they were in a fight for the future of the nation, I understand that, but not a single hero, not even one that could walk off screen and never appear again, had any issues with Endeavor's actions. Abuse that made the viewer sick to their stomach in Season 2 apparently has no tangible effect on his coworkers. We never get any surprise from his agency. We never get any surprise from any minor heroes. We never get any surprise from the top heroes. Nothing from All Might, who is one of the most empathetic people in the series. Nothing from the kids, who now know the full extent of the abuse that Shoto had endured. This lack of pushback to Endeavor's past being exposed kind of gimps the Dabi reveal, making it feel like nobody really cares that much besides a select few citizens that are portrayed in a mob-esque light, as if they are wrong for distrusting Endeavor. It also just feels uninteresting to a viewer, at least speaking personally. What made me so excited about the Dabi reveal was the fallout of this action, and at first I was satisfied in letting Hori cook, but ultimately it just feels lacking. It doesn't help that Endeavor's answer to the press was a callback to Pro Hero where he actually did something, but in Villain Hunt he kind of just stands around. It's even more frustrating to think about the context of his relationship with Toya destroying himself, and him not feeling more proactive about caring for Midoriya doing the exact same thing that killed Toya. Hawks suffers a similar issue to Endeavor, where what makes them a deep and interesting character isn't actually reflected on the cast. What makes these characters interesting is the bad shit they've done. Endeavor beat his wife into a hospital, inadvertently got his kid killed, it almost did it to his second while estranging his other two kids, yet nobody seems bothered by it. Hawks manipulated a man and created a situation where killing him was the only option, but not a single person, not even the civilians, seemed to be bothered by this. His killing of Twice was masterful execution, as evidenced by the fandom arguments that have continued about it for nearly 3 years. The problem is when you strip away the moral grayness to instead make nobody care in universe. The Best Genius reveal was shocking because we got this scene with a lot of gravity about him pulling his sword out on BJ, only to find out he was in on it the whole time. This scene now serves no purpose besides to bait the viewers to have a reveal that lessens Hawk's character centered around moral ambiguity. This hurts, but people like Tokoyami or Midoriya, who both grappled with the notion of killing somebody, never get the chance to even talk to him about this. They just implicitly co-sign his actions with no introspection of their own. Not to say that characters can't agree with Hawks, but considering how much social upheaval the reveal that he killed Twice was supposed to have, why is none of that felt in our cast? Hawks has the opportunity to have a talk with a literal assassin from the Public Safety Commission, and all that really happens is he tells her he's optimistic. By the way, while I like the Nagant fight, Jesus Christ was her exploding so bad. Hawks had all nuance from his decision ripped away from him. I sincerely mean it when I say that Villain Hunt dumbs down literally every character involved to make the plot wrap up as quickly as possible. If it wasn't obvious enough how much our cast had been dumbed down through the lack of reaction to the top two doing insane shit, where it reveals itself again how much our cast had been dumbed down through the lack of reaction to the top.
That was the season 4 fight? Bro, I need to watch it again. Holy crap.
I sincerely mean it when I say that Villain Hunt dumbs down literally every character involved to make the plot wrap up as quickly as possible.
He was 100% spitting here, though.
If it wasn't obvious enough how much our cast had been dumbed,
I think most fans of the Villain Hunt arc know this and ignore it.
Down through the
including me.
Lack of reaction to the top two doing insane shit, where it reveals itself again is with One for All becoming an open secret. Such a massification that has been reinforced to the viewer multiple times that this cannot happen, so when it breaks the news and the cast at large is aware of it,
yeah, literally nothing comes of it.
We get prepared for all
besides like the mobs and stuff.
All kinds of interesting reactions that some people had been waiting for all 6 seasons, yet none of it comes. All Might and Midoriya never get a funny little moment together when their shared secret goes public. Nobody has anything to say about Bakugo knowing about the secret as well. None of Class A even goes, damn, this kid had All Might's power? Not even Shoto, the one who directly asked if Midoriya had 2 quirks, cared that he was in fact keeping his power a secret. I don't expect him to hate Midoriya or anything, just maybe a little callback to that moment and going like, hey, you did in fact have 2 quirks. Something that was built up towards being revealed one day seemed massively inconsequential once it was revealed. Not even any in-universe interest about how quirks have weird spirits or something that communicates with one another. Something that would likely shake up the very foundations of quirk sciences forever. The one person out of all of these characters that should have had a passing thought about One for All is yet again Endeavor. The man whose back he chased the entire life trying to surpass had a power that was ultimately unsurpassable. He had thrown away not just his own life but one of his children's and ruined his spouse's life. In an arc where Endeavor didn't do much of anything, making some time in an arc that could have addressed so much to have Endeavor reflecting on this revelation could have been very interesting. Especially with how it once again loops back to Toya, a kid with a power stronger than their mentor that goes so out of control that they begin to destroy their body, as the expectations placed on their shoulders crushes their very being. The reveal that One For All exists and is this influential not mattering is extraordinarily disappointing. The lack of consequences both physically and emotionally alongside the disinterest in One For All really goes to show that Villain Hunt has absolutely butchered everything that made Midoriya interesting. This will be a kind of paraphrased version of my Deku is no longer interesting video from a few weeks ago, so if you've already seen it, I won't waste your time too much. Midoriya entered Villain Hunt going from one of his lowest points emotionally from
We did see that, by the way. Check the reaction.
the war arc. Ever since the start of the story, he had shown and expressed kind of destructive thoughts or not really taking himself into account. And in the war arc, he puts everything on the line to defeat Shigaraki no matter what happens to him. And even after blowing his body to bits, he still considers himself the old worthless Deku that couldn't save anybody. Alongside this self-destructive behavior, he reduces himself as only the power of One For All to destroy All For One, thinking that his entire life purpose was what his power was allegedly designed for. While he always had these tendencies, they were absolutely flared up by two things. First, by the power he was given, and secondly, this is a big one, the effects of systemic marginalization and being told by everyone around him that his negative thoughts and thought patterns are legitimate. Watching the very person who treated him like dirt get regularly praised and rewarded even despite that behavior.
Purdue University
I swear,
Global.
I literally never get this much ads, like, when I'm watching videos, but when I'm reacting, I have to get ads literally all the time. I don't get it, it makes no sense, but it is what it is.
The arc's biggest purpose is to tackle those flaws of Midoriya's character, to rein him in a little bit, but it never does. He spends a month looking around Japan for the League, then gets saved by his friends and takes a bath. There is not a single point anywhere at all within this journey where he has any introspective thoughts about his situation, never reflecting on his relationship with his power. Everybody else gets to do that for him. He gets told that he isn't his power, something that ironically has precedent in My Hero Academia. Deku told Shoto that it's his power, not his father's, but the thing is, Shoto isn't solved by this fight. He still struggles, he still has to face his trauma himself and become a better man. This nuance or tact is discarded for Midoriya, who just goes, oh okay, I'm better now. The issue with Villain Hunt is that, in an arc that is supposed to be about Midoriya's current state and no longer shouldering that burden, moving past the single pillar of society ideology, Midoriya himself is never given the chance to be interesting or nuanced. He is given a band-aid solution to lifelong systemic marginalization and discrimination, and then proceeds to get trauma dumped by his past abuser. The one person who could relate to borderline self-harm and throwing caution to the wind, All Might, was utilized for a quick gag and for Midoriya to chalk up all of his issues to not having All Might there, which to be frank is probably the lowest point of Midoriya's character thus far. Never does he find value in himself and needs to get trauma dumped by his past abuser. The one person who could relate to borderline self-harm and throwing caution to the wind, All Might, was utilized for a quick gag and for Midoriya to chalk up all of his issues to not having All Might there, which to be frank is probably the lowest point of Midoriya's character thus far. Never does he find value in himself, never does he begin to work on his own self-worth, never does he himself get to reflect on his relationship with One For All, and never does he himself work towards the path of no longer dehumanizing himself. When the arc dedicated to him isn't busy laying him up for disappointment, it is instead butchering the plotlines of his that came before. Villain Hunt absolutely decimates Midoriya's power progression that we have come to know throughout the series. We were deeply connected to his journey, his struggles, his successes. Watching him destroy
Midoriya getting like 18 powers in 5 episodes.
Himself, seeing him finally utilize 5%, using his legs, Air Force 20%. It all took a long time, but it all felt earned every step of the way. Villain Hunt throws this concept away entirely, throwing new quirks at Midoriya as if they're going out of style, giving him uninventive quirks that he can either master immediately or throwing out the idea of mastering them entirely, like Fajin. This is genuinely the worst quirk Midoriya has, not because it's weak, but because it only serves as a way for Horikoshi to wrap up the story as fast as possible. Act 2 ended with Midoriya only at 45% maximum, and Fajin is a band-aid solution to let him utilize 100%. Even if that isn't true, letting Midoriya skip all of that power progression for a power that he takes 0 time to learn or master is extremely unrewarding compared to something like full cowling. It even drops one of the main hooks in Midoriya's power progression, his arms. The state of his arms were an instrumental factor of his early growth. They were why shoot style was invented. They were half the reason his costume was designed how it was, and not to say that they would be a problem forever, but the Bakugo Rising episode basically dangles this in front of us like keys jingling in front of a child. It thrust the idea to the forefront, reminding viewers, hey, look, he's doing it again, only to literally betray previous plotlines, investment, and viewer expectation by saying, just kidding, dumbass, he's fine. This video is already getting long enough, so I won't ramble on about Midoriya anymore. If you want more, check out my Deku video, but do note it has Season 7 spoilers. As a quick aside, I feel like Mirio having his powers back should have been a much bigger note in Villain Hunt, considering that his entire purpose in the overhaul arc was to serve as a foil for Midoriya to prove why he deserves One For All. Bringing him back and then promptly forgetting about him as soon as his use is up in the war was a massive waste. Oh well, let's get to the apology. The apology scene is something that encapsulates every single issue with this arc. Rapidly paced, just sort of happens, nobody really cares, we move past.
Yeah, that was so weird. Like, they established the scene, and okay, it's sad for a second, and then, literally, in my reaction, I think, like, the Twitch one, not, like, the YouTube one, because I think I cut it out, but, like, after Bakugo apologized, it was silent for, like, 5 seconds. And then his Yajirozu was like, "Oh yeah, anyway, so we have a lot more problems ahead of us." Like, what the? Where was the resolve? Where was the reaction? Like, it just happened. Like, I don't know. It was kind of weird, man. I'm not gonna lie.
And it benefits Deku the least despite his involvement in the scene. We get a moment that we have expected for years, something that Baku had been building towards throughout all 6 seasons, and while his sacrificial play in PLW is a peak of his atonement arc, this is the real climax here. He lays out everything we have been left to wonder about his character, explicitly confirming our exact suspicions of his relationship with Deku from his point of view. And then it just sort of ends. Midoriya has no response immediately. Okay, sure, fair. I'm sure we'll get something. Oh, never mind. Deku, just like this entire arc, is given an opportunity for introspection on something that played a massive factor of how he arrived at the point he is now. The entire purpose of Villain Hunt was for something like this, only for Midoriya to fall asleep and then take a bath. It's a recurring trend for Midoriya in this relationship, and it's partly why people were really expecting something here. Besides Battle Trial, Midoriya never really gets to talk about how the stuff with Bakugo made him feel. He never gets to reflect on his relationship, and he instead has to act as the therapist for the guy who bullied him and instills some of this worthless value he ascribes to himself. And I know this is an anime-only video, so you might be thinking this could come later, and
yeah, spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Come back later. Pre-Bakugo death, by the way.
Sorry if you could
quote unquote
consider this a spoiler, but it won't. This will never be spoken about again. If you were waiting for Midoriya to reflect on his lack of self-worth, how that came to be, his recklessness, his relationship with Bakugo, or All Might, or literally anything, then I'm sorry. He will effectively not progress, at least up to the current date and time. The manga's not over, so I guess you never know. But that brings us to the death rattle of My Hero Academia. So off the heels of Midoriya going on a suicidal month-long journey because he does not value himself, slowly cutting off ties with his loved ones and plunging himself even deeper into that solitude, we get the Bath chapter, or the final episode of Season 6. Now, after all of the doom and gloom of PLW and Villain Hunt, I'm totally okay with a joyful, calm-down chapter. It's kind of jarring to watch after having All Might grapple with borderline suicidality and stumble through the dark looking for a purpose, but, you know, these things happen. You know what would have made this scene much more rewarding? Imagine if this came after Midoriya got to have some introspection or actually...
Not weird, like I never really considered, like, the suicide thing. I was gonna try and find a way to censor suicide, but like, I'm not monetized, so I don't care. Plus, real world issues here. Yeah, I never really interpreted that as All Might thinking of killing himself. I just thought he was thinking of like, well, I don't know. I don't remember. The episode came out like a week ago, so I kind of forgot. I'm not gonna lie.
Speak with Bakugo. Instead, we get this almost insulting panel of Kaminari saying that most things in the world could be solved with a good bath. Which apparently is pretty true considering all of the horrific shit these kids have faced disappears without a trace after this episode. The only acknowledgement that anything has actually changed is Bakugo calling him Izuku, and instead of giving Midoriya and Ochako a chance to talk after this incredible speech scene, yes, there are things I like about Villain Hunt, she just goes the fuck to sleep. Your best friend disappears for a month, and the first thing you do is pass out when you have a chance to actually interact with them. A lot of people defend this by saying she was just tired, but guess what? Ochako Uraraka is not real. She does not have to be tired unless the author makes her tired. The third and final massive insult to this ending chapter is All Might. After this dramatic separation, you might think that there will be some heartwarming or grand reunion where the two... No. That's it. This is how they reunite. Then Mina proceeds to ask All Might for an apology despite him, like, doing something insanely reckless. Then Midoriya pins everything, the years of abuse, the years of discrimination, the lifelong issues of self-perception on All Might not being there for him. Villain Hunt is a rapidly paced arc that discards all physical and emotional consequences, to strip plot points and plotlines away from the characters that made them interesting, and fails its primary function in giving the main character a deep dive and tons of focus to do pretty much nothing. A fitting end to the worst arc of My Hero Academia so far. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for the funny YouTube algorithm. You can check the description down below to follow me on Twitter, where I'm objectively correct all the time. You can also join my Discord, where we talk about My Hero Academia, ReZero, Jujutsu Kaisen, and stuff like that. And you can also now become a YouTube member, which basically just gives you access to behind-the-scenes content, a little badge on comments, and live stream chats,
this arc was that it was too short.
Only do so if you want to support the
I mean,
channel.
I like the arc
That's about it,
too,
though.
but
Thank you
like,
for watching. See ya.
I'm not gonna lie, I agree with everything that he said. Basically, literally everything. Oh my goodness, facts. I was wondering why at the end of the season I literally said, oh, that's it. It felt really episodic instead of a continued story. For example, it's like Jiraiya dying in Naruto, and Naruto bawling his eyes out for one episode and then going back to training the next. Seemed like a highlight reel instead of each story. Nowhere near as bad, but similar to God of High School. kept calling him Dark Deku, and it didn't really do anything dark. Deku having wrist, Deku having wrist is enough for me. Okay. I think that's where we could end this video. Thank you for watching though. Really appreciate y'all being here. Yeah, W reaction, I think. Video link in the description. Alright, thanks for watching. Peace.